When 14-year-old Aduni picked up the money her father warned her never to touch, she instantly transformed into a goat. But the real shock came when they discovered that the town's beloved philanthropist Chief Mrs. Grace and famous TV preacher Reverend Mother Patricia were the ones turning missing children into livestock for ritual sacrifices. Now 48 young goats wait in cages, and Aduni must be saved before she becomes the next sacrifice. In the sprawling chaos of Lagos, where broken dreams mixed with desperate hopes, 14-year-old Aduni walked the dusty path behind the abandoned shopping complex. Her faded pink uniform bore the weight of too many washes, and her school shoes had more patches than original leather. But Aduni had something that made even the rich girls jealous. A smile that could light up the darkest room and grades that put her at the top of her class, despite studying by candlelight. That Thursday afternoon changed everything. As she kicked an empty can along the cracked earth, something caught her eye. A 500 naira note, crisp and perfect, lay beside a heap of construction blocks, like a gift from heaven itself. Aduni froze, her heart hammered against her ribs. 500 naira meant food for 2 days. 500 naira meant she could finally buy that mathematics textbook instead of copying notes until midnight. 500 naira meant her father wouldn't have to skip meals so she could eat. The construction site was deserted. The workers had left early, and the evening traders hadn't started their journey home. Just Aduni and that beautiful purple note that seemed to glow in the fading sunlight. "God has finally remembered us," she whispered, her voice trembling with joy. Her father always said their breakthrough would come. Here it was, waiting on the ground like an answered prayer. She bent down, fingers reaching eagerly for the money. Then it happened. A wind so cold it made her teeth chatter swept through the path. The abandoned complex groaned. A murder of crows exploded from the roof, their cries piercing the air like warnings. The temperature dropped so suddenly that goosebumps erupted on her arms. Aduni yanked her hand back, heart racing. The wind vanished as quickly as it came. The evening returned to its humid stillness. She looked around, confused and slightly afraid, but the money still lay there, innocent and inviting. "Stop being foolish," she scolded herself. "It's just weather. Lagos weather is always crazy." Her fingers closed around the note. Nothing, no lightning, no earthquake. Just the feel of money in her hand. Real money that could solve real problems. She quickly folded it and tucked it deep into her school bag, under her books, where no one would see. Walking home, Aduni felt like she was floating. Maybe she could buy rice. Real rice, not the broken grains they usually managed. Maybe even some chicken. Her father's birthday was next week. This could be his gift. Papa David sat outside their single room mending a neighbor's shoes. His hands, once strong enough to lift cement bags all day, now shook slightly from years of hard labor. He'd been a construction worker until the accident that crushed his leg. Now he fixed shoes for small money, pride swallowed for survival. "My princess is home," he smiled, looking up from his work. "How was school?" "We got our test results. I came first again in mathematics." His face beamed with pride. "That's my girl. One day you'll build skyscrapers, not like your old father who only carried blocks." Aduni shifted nervously, the money burning like fire in her bag. The excitement was too much. "Papa, look what I found." She pulled out the note, holding it up triumphantly. The needle fell from his hand, his face drained of color so fast Aduni thought he might faint. "Where did you get this?" His voice came out strangled, afraid. "I found it, Papa! Near the old shopping complex. It was just there and I thought—" Before she could finish, Papa David snatched the note. He struggled to his feet, limped to the kerosene stove, and threw the money into the flame. The purple note curled and blackened, 500 naira becoming ash in seconds. "Papa!" Aduni screamed, tears springing to her eyes. "Why? We need that money. You need that money." He gripped her shoulders with surprising strength. "Listen to me, Aduni. Listen well. Not all money is blessing. Some money is bait. You pick it. They pick you. That's superstition." Aduni pulled away, anger replacing shock. "We sleep hungry, and you burn money because of village stories. Everything is not juju, Papa. Everything is not juju, but some things are." His voice was firm but sad. "Your mother, before she died, she warned me. Never let our child pick money from the ground. Never! Mama is gone!" The words exploded from Aduni before she could stop them. She's been gone for 5 years, and her warnings won't fill our stomachs." She ran into their room, slamming the thin door. Through the wall, she heard her father's quiet sobs. Guilt twisted her stomach, but anger burned hotter. They could have eaten well. He could have had medicine for his leg pain. But no, fear ruled their lives while poverty squeezed tighter every day. That night, hunger kept her awake. The single cup of Gary they'd shared for dinner sat like stones in her stomach. She thought about the money turning to ash, and something hard crystallized in her heart. If she found money again, she wouldn't tell him. She'd be smart. She'd be careful. The next morning, Aduni took the long route to school. Her eyes scanned every corner, every gutter, every abandoned spot. And then, like magic, there it was, a 1,000 naira note lying beside the broken water tank. Her heart leaped. She looked around carefully. Nobody. The morning was quiet, except for distant traffic. She remembered her father's fears, but she also remembered their empty pot and his pain medication they couldn't afford. If this was really cursed, she reasoned, wouldn't something bad have happened yesterday? I touched it. I carried it. Nothing happened except Papa burned it. She grabbed the note and stuffed it deep in her sock. This time would be different. This time, she'd hide it until she could spend it wisely. No one had to know. From that day, Aduni became a hunter. Every path, every corner, every quiet spot became a potential treasure ground. And strangely, mysteriously, she kept finding money. Not daily, but often enough to feel chosen. 50 naira under the bridge, 200 near the church, sometimes even 500 or 1,000, always in places where few people walked. She developed rules. Never pick from the same spot twice. Always check for watching eyes. Hide the money in different places. Inside her pencil case, wrapped in plastic behind the latrine, even sewn into the hem of her old dress. Papa David never suspected. Aduni became an expert at deception, pretending to study while counting her secret wealth. 2 weeks passed. Her collection had grown to almost 10,000 naira, more money than their family had seen in months. She started making plans. Medicine for Papa, food for the house, maybe even school supplies that weren't held together with tape and prayers. But on that fateful Tuesday, everything changed. The path behind the Anglican church was her favorite. Quiet, shaded, and lately, very generous. She walked slowly after school, eyes sweeping the ground with practiced ease. Then she saw them. 3 1,000 naira notes arranged in a perfect line, each exactly 1 foot apart, creating a trail that led toward the cluster of palm trees. Not scattered, not dropped, placed, deliberately, like breadcrumbs in a fairy tale. Aduni's blood turned cold. This felt different, wrong, like a trap waiting to spring. The smart thing would be to run. Her father's warnings echoed in her mind, joined now by her dead mother's voice from memories. But 10,000 could become 13,000. 13,000 could change their lives. She could pay rent for 3 months, buy Papa real medicine, not just paracetamol, maybe even start a small trade for him. "It's just money," she whispered, but her voice shook. "Same as all the others. Nothing happened before. Nothing will happen now." She bent down and picked up the first note. Normal, just paper. She picked up the second. Still nothing. Her confidence grew. See? Just money that someone dropped carelessly. She reached for the third note. The moment her fingers touched it, the world stopped. Everything froze. A butterfly hung suspended between wing beats. Leaves stopped mid-rustle. Even the dust particles in the air became visible, frozen like a photograph. The silence was so complete that Aduni could hear her own heart beating, loud as drums in her ears. Then came the pain. It started in her fingertips, sharp, like 1,000 needles pushing through her skin. The agony shot up her arm, spreading across her chest like liquid fire. She tried to scream, but her mouth wouldn't work properly. Her jaw stretched and elongated, bones cracking and reshaping with sounds that made her want to vomit. She watched in horror as her school uniform began to tear. Her spine curved violently, forcing her onto all fours. Her hands, her beautiful hands that could solve equations and write essays, began to merge and harden. Fingers fused together, nails thickening into something else entirely. Her shoes split apart as her feet transformed, toes melting together before hardening into hooves. "No, no, no," her mind screamed, but what came out was, "Me!" The transformation felt like hours of torture compressed into minutes. Her skin burned and itched as coarse brown fur pushed through every pore. Her neck stretched, her face pushed forward into a snout. When it finally ended, Aduni, the brilliant schoolgirl, was gone. In her place stood a small brown goat with a distinctive white patch behind its left ear. She tried to stand upright, impossible. Tried to speak, only bleating. Tried to cry. Goats don't cry the way humans do. But her mind remained intact, trapped inside this animal body, understanding with crystal clarity that every warning had been real. The world unfroze. Sounds rushed back, and with them came footsteps. "Perfect timing," a woman's voice said. "Brown with the white patch, just as planned. Madam Grace will be pleased." Two figures emerged from behind the palm trees. Both women, one tall and elegant in a designer wrapper, the other shorter with ritual scars on her cheeks. They looked at Aduni with satisfaction, like farmers inspecting a prize crop. "This makes 48, the scarred woman said. "The commissioner's contract needs 50. 2 more, and we're done." A rope appeared, rough against Aduni's new neck. She tried to run, but didn't understand her new legs. 4 limbs instead of 2, hooves instead of feet, balance all wrong. They caught her easily, professionals at handling frightened livestock. "Come, little one," the elegant woman cooed. "No point fighting. You chose this path the moment you picked up that first note. Greed always leads to the same destination." They loaded her into a van, not a truck, but a luxury van with tinted windows and air conditioning. Through the dark glass, Aduni watched familiar streets pass by. Her school, the market where Papa might be fixing shoes, places from her human life that already felt like distant dreams. The journey ended at a mansion that made every house Aduni had ever seen look like a chicken coop. Electric fences, security cameras, guards in black uniforms. The gate bore a golden inscription: Chief Mrs. Grace Adeyemi, CEO, Grace Empire. Everyone knew that name. Chief Mrs. Grace Adeyemi owned the biggest shopping mall in Lagos. She funded orphanages. Her foundation gave scholarships to poor students. Aduni herself had applied just last month. The newspapers called her Mother of the Masses and Woman of the Year. But the van didn't stop at the magnificent main house. It continued past swimming pools and guest chalets, past tennis courts and gardens, to a section hidden behind high walls and thick trees. The smell hit first. Animal waste mixed with fear and something darker. Something that smelled like dried blood and burning herbs. The structure was a fortress of wood and metal. No windows. One heavy door secured with multiple locks. From inside came sounds that made Aduni's goat heart race. Bleating, but not normal animal sounds. Too rhythmic, too desperate, too human. "Dinner time soon," the scarred woman said, checking her phone. "Madam will choose tonight. The commissioner wants results by Friday." They opened the locks, 5 different ones, and shoved Aduni inside. The door slammed shut, leaving her in a nightmare made real. Dozens of goats filled the space, but their eyes. Aduni's new goat vision saw clearly in the dim light, and what she saw made her wish she was blind. Human eyes in goat faces. Human intelligence trapped in animal bodies. Some goats huddled together like they were trying to comfort each other. Others stood alone, heads hanging in despair. One was scratching something in the dirt. Letters, Aduni realized. SOS, over and over again. A grey goat approached, moving with the careful dignity of age. Its eyes held depths of sadness no animal should possess. It bleated, but somehow Aduni understood. In this cursed place, the transformed could communicate. "New one. So young. Secondary school." Aduni nodded, tears her goat body couldn't properly shed burning inside. "We all were something," another goat communicated. A black one with unusual blue eyes. "I was a nurse, 26 years old, picked up 5,000 naira outside the hospital." "University student," came from a white goat. "Found money near my hostel, that was 3 months ago." "Taxi driver," added another. "Bus conductor, teacher, trader, security guard." The introductions came like a roll call of the damned. All of us picked up money. All of us thought we were lucky. "But why?" Aduni tried to ask through bleats and gestures. "Why do this?" The grey goat, Elder the others called him, explained with sounds and movements that painted a picture of evil beyond imagination. Chief Mrs. Grace hadn't built her empire through business acumen alone. She fed something ancient, something hungry. Every major contract, every business expansion, every award required sacrifice, human sacrifice. But killing people directly was messy, risky. This way was cleaner. She drops the money, we pick it up, we transform. She keeps us until needed, then... Elder didn't finish, but Aduni understood. The missing goats, the smell of blood, the burnt herbs. How many? Aduni asked. Hundreds over the years, maybe thousands. Not all at once. Different locations, different times, perfect system. Who questions a wealthy woman keeping goats? Who investigates when poor people disappear? As night fell, the pen grew colder. Aduni learned the horrible routine. Twice a day, workers threw in hay and corn. The goat body craved it, but the human mind recoiled. Some gave in to animal instincts. Others starved, maintaining their humanity through hunger. Then came the sound that made every goat freeze. Expensive heels clicking on concrete. The door opened and Chief Mrs. Grace Adayemi entered. She looked exactly like her pictures, beautiful, elegant, motherly, until you saw her eyes, empty, cold, ancient. Behind her walked someone who made Aduni's heart stop. Reverend Mother Patricia from the Cathedral of Holy Fire, the same woman who preached on television every Sunday about prosperity and breakthrough. The same woman whose prayers had supposedly healed thousands. The commissioner's patience wears thin, Chief Mrs. Grace said, her voice cultured and smooth. Choose 2, young ones, the fresher, the better. Reverend Mother Patricia walked among them like she was selecting vegetables at the market. Her flowing white robe brushed against their fur. Her golden cross caught the light. She stopped at a small white goat that had been a university student. This one? Then her eyes found Aduni. And the new one, perfect age, perfect innocence. The spirits will feast tonight. Terror flooded Aduni's system. This was it. This was how she would die, not as a girl with dreams of becoming an engineer, but as a goat in a ritual sacrifice. Papa would never know what happened. He'd search and search, growing older and sadder, never knowing his daughter became an animal, and then smoke. But as the women reached for her, something unexpected happened. Thunder crashed overhead. Not normal thunder. This sounded like the sky itself was breaking. Lightning flashed so bright it turned night to day. And then, impossible but undeniable, the locked door swung open. Rain poured in like a waterfall. Wind howled with fury, and in the chaos, Aduni heard something that gave her strength, the sound of prayer. Somewhere nearby, a church was holding night vigil. Their voices rose above the storm. Every chain must break. Every captive must go free. Chief Mrs. Grace stepped back, her composed face showing fear for the first time. The barriers should hold. I paid for protection. The prayers are too strong, Reverend Mother Patricia hissed. Someone who truly believes is leading them. Another lightning strike. The lights went out. In the darkness and confusion, Elder made his move. The old goat charged at Chief Mrs. Grace, his horns finding her designer wrapper. She screamed, falling backward. Other goats understood. This was their chance. They stampeded toward the open door. Stop them! Chief Mrs. Grace shrieked, but the storm was supernatural. Rain fell sideways. Wind pushed the women back. Lightning struck the ground, creating barriers of light. Aduni ran. Her 4 legs, which had felt like a curse, now pumped with desperate strength. She followed the other escaping goats into the storm, into the night, into a city that suddenly felt infinite with possibility. The storm raged like heaven's fury as Aduni ran through unfamiliar streets. Her hooves slipped on wet pavement. Her fur was soaked within seconds. Behind her, she could hear Chief Mrs. Grace's security guards shouting, their flashlights cutting through the rain. But the storm seemed to shield the escapees, creating walls of water that confused pursuit. She ran without direction, following instinct more than thought. Other escaped goats scattered in different directions. Some probably had homes to return to, families who would recognize them somehow. But Aduni had only one thought, Papa. She had to get home, had to make him understand. The journey was a nightmare of wrong turns and near misses. Twice she almost got hit by cars, their drivers probably wondering why a goat was running through Lagos in a thunderstorm. Her animal body was exhausted, but her human will pushed forward. Street by street, landmark by landmark, she found her way. It was past midnight when she finally recognized her neighborhood. The storm had calmed to steady rain. The single room she shared with Papa was dark. Electricity had been cut 2 weeks ago for non-payment. But there was light in her heart when she saw him. Papa David sat in the doorway, his bad legs stretched out, his eyes red from crying. He'd been waiting, searching, hoping. His princess had vanished on Tuesday. It was now Friday night. 3 days of agony etched lines on his face that hadn't been there before. "God, if you took her, give me peace," she heard him whisper. "If she's alive, please, please bring my baby home. I'll give anything. Take my other leg, take my eyes. Just bring back my Aduni." The goat that was Aduni stepped into the small circle of light from his kerosene lamp. She was shaking, soaked, and when Papa's eyes met hers, she did something goats shouldn't be able to do. She cried. Not goat sounds, but real tears mixing with rain on her fur. Papa David stared. His hand holding the lamp trembled. "What?" Aduni took a step closer and did the only thing she could think of. She limped, dragged her back left leg the same way Papa dragged his bad leg. The gesture was so specific, so human, so them, that understanding dawned in his eyes. "No," he breathed. "God, no. Not this." She pressed her head against his good leg, the way she used to hug him when she was small. She could feel him shaking, feel his tears dropping onto her fur. "My baby, Aduni? Is it you?" She nodded, an impossible gesture for a normal goat. Then, desperate to make him certain, she used her hoof to scratch in the mud. It was clumsy, difficult, but she managed 3 letters. D-A-D. Papa David broke. He pulled her into his arms, sobbing like she'd never heard before. He held her wet, muddy goat body like she was the most precious thing in the world, which to him, she was. "I'm sorry," he cried. "I'm so sorry. I should have explained better, should have watched you closer. Your mother warned me. She said the city had dangers we couldn't see. I failed you. I failed both of you." They stayed like that until the rain stopped. Then Papa did what he'd always done. He took action despite the pain. He tied a soft rope around her neck, not like a leash, but like holding hands. He covered her with his only good shirt, and even though his legs screamed with every step, he began walking. "We're going to fix this," he said firmly. "I don't know how, but we'll fix this." Their first stop was Mama Siddi's shop. The old woman who sold provisions was known for her connections to spiritual leaders. Papa David knocked until she opened, ready to curse whoever was disturbing her sleep. But when she saw his face, when he whispered his impossible story, her anger turned to fear. "Ah, not another one," she said quietly. "My sister's boy in Mushin, my cousin's daughter in Surulere, all missing. All talked about finding money before they vanished." She gave them an address. Pastor Rebecca of Christ Love Ministry. "She's different," Mama Siddi insisted. "Not these prosperity people. She still prays the old way, with power." But Pastor Rebecca's assistant turned them away at the gate. "Pastor doesn't deal with such things," she said, eyeing the goat with suspicion. "Try Pastor Blessing down the road." Pastor Blessing's church was locked. The security guard said she traveled to Dubai for a conference. The next church they tried, the pastor took one look and demanded 50,000 naira for special deliverance. Papa David had only 300 naira to his name. By dawn, they'd been turned away from 5 churches. Each rejection hit Papa David harder. His limp was getting worse. His face was grey with exhaustion and pain. But he kept walking, kept knocking, kept begging. At the 6th church, a small fellowship that met in someone's living room, the leader at least listened. Prophetess Comfort was a large woman with kind eyes and gentle hands. She touched Adoni's head, prayed in tongues, then shook her head sadly. "This is beyond me," she admitted. "The power that did this is old, older than churches. You need someone who remembers the time before, someone who never forgot the ancient ways." "Where?" Papa David asked desperately. "There's a man. They call him Baba Ifa. Lives past the old market where the city meets the forest. But..." She hesitated. "People say he's mad, says he talks to trees and stones. The churches call him evil, but my grandmother used to say he was the last one who remembered truth." The journey to find Baba Ifa took the rest of the day. Papa's leg gave out twice. Each time Aduni tried to support him, her small goat body pressed against his side. They must have looked insane. A crippled man leaning on a goat, both covered in mud and desperation. The path to Baba Ifa's place was like stepping back in time. Modern buildings gave way to old structures. Paved roads became dirt paths. The sounds of traffic faded, replaced by bird calls and wind through leaves. Finally, in a clearing marked by white stones and ancient carvings, they found him. Baba Ifa looked like the earth itself had taken human form. His dark skin seemed to absorb light. His white hair and beard framed a face that could have been 50 or 500 years old. He sat perfectly still, eyes closed, but spoke before they could announce themselves. "Place the child on the mat." Papa David started. "You know? I know many parents have come, many children have been taken. The city pretends not to see, but the earth remembers every footstep." He opened his eyes, and Aduni felt like he was looking through her animal body straight into her soul. "This one is fresh. 3 days? 4? 3 days, Papa confirmed. "Good. After 7 days, the change becomes harder to reverse. After 30 days. He didn't finish. Baba Ifa stood slowly, moving with careful precision. He drew circles in the earth with white chalk. He placed Aduni in the center, then surrounded her with items that seemed ordinary but hummed with power. Cola nuts, palm fronds, river stones, and a small gourd of something that smelled like rain. "Tell me," he said to Papa David, "who turned away from you? Which shepherds refused to help their sheep?" Papa listed the churches, the pastors, the prophets who had refused help. With each name, Baba Ifa's expression grew darker. "They know," he said quietly. "Some take money to look away, others are afraid. The one who does this has bought many souls, not just those she transforms." "Who?" Papa David asked. "Who is doing this?" Baba Ifa was quiet for a moment, then spoke a name that made Papa David gasp. "Chief Mrs. Grace Adeyemi, she who builds orphanages with blood money, she who gives scholarships paid for with souls, and beside her, those who claim to speak for God but serve only gold." He began to chant in a language older than memory. The words seemed to come from the earth itself, rising through him like water from a deep well. The chalk circles began to glow with soft white light. The air grew thick, electric, alive. Aduni felt it starting, a tingling in her hooves, a stretching in her spine. But it wasn't the violent transformation of before. This was gentle, like slowly waking from a long sleep. The goat body began to shift and change, fur falling away like old clothes. "The restoration comes," Baba Ifa said, his voice now echoing with power. "But know this, she who was stolen must help steal others back. This is not just your child's story. This is war, and your daughter is now a soldier whether she wishes it or not." The light grew brighter. The tingling became burning. And then, with a sound like thunder in reverse, the transformation completed. The light faded like dawn in reverse. Where a small brown goat had stood, Aduni now lay curled on the mat, human, naked, shivering, but herself again. Papa David cried out and covered her quickly with his wrapper, holding her as she sobbed against his chest. Her body felt strange, like wearing clothes that almost fit but not quite. Being human again was a gift she'd never thought to appreciate before. My baby, Papa David whispered over and over, rocking her like she was 4 years old again. "You're back. You're here. It's over." But Baba Ifa shook his head slowly. "Not over. Just beginning. Child, look at me." Aduni raised her tear-stained face. The old man's eyes held storms and centuries. "You've been to the dark place. You've seen the others. How many?" "Dozens," Aduni whispered, her voice hoarse from days of bleating. "Maybe 50, all transformed, all waiting to die. And you know who holds them. Chief Mrs. Grace Adeyemi and Reverend Mother Patricia was there too. They were choosing who to sacrifice." Papa David's face went hard. "Then we go to the police. We tell them everything." Baba Ifa laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "The police? Child, tell your father. When Chief Mrs. Grace came to choose goats, did she come alone?" Aduni thought back, remembering. There were others. "I saw uniforms in the main compound, and cars, expensive cars." "The commissioner's cars," Baba Ifa finished. "The senator's cars, the minister's cars. She doesn't just sacrifice for herself, she provides a service. Those who want power, who want contracts, who want enemies to disappear, they come to her, and she feeds their ambitions with transformed souls. The weight of it crushed down on them. This wasn't just one evil woman. It was a network, a system, a machine that turned poverty and desperation into death. "So what do we do?" Papa David asked. "Let them continue? Let our children disappear?" "We fight," Baba Ifa said simply, "but not with police who can be bought or courts that can be corrupted. We fight with truth, with the power of the people, with mothers who have lost children and fathers who search empty streets." He looked at Aduni. "And we fight with witnesses who have been inside and returned." He stood, bones creaking like old trees. "But first, we must make sure she cannot be taken again. The transformation leaves marks, invisible but real. She could track you, pull you back." He reached for a small knife. "This will hurt, but it will hide you from her spiritual sight." The cutting was quick. 3 small marks on Aduni's forehead, filled with black powder that burned like ice. When it was done, Baba Ifa nodded with satisfaction. "Now you are hidden, but we must move fast. Every day means more transformations, more sacrifices." He turned to Papa David. "Take your daughter home. Rest tonight. Tomorrow at dawn, bring everyone you trust, everyone who has lost someone, everyone who seeks truth. We will plan, we will act, and we will end this." The walk home was different. Aduni could use 2 legs again, but they felt uncertain, like she might fall back to 4 at any moment. Papa David kept his arm around her, taking most of her weight despite his bad leg. People stared. A limping man and a girl, wrapped in nothing but a wrapper, both looking like they'd survived a war, which, in a way, they had. Their compound was full of neighbors when they arrived. News of Aduni's disappearance had spread. Some had helped search, others had prayed. When they saw her, alive but changed, the questions came in waves. "Where were you? What happened? Why do you look like that?" Aduni opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. How could she explain? That she'd been a goat? That the respected Chief Mrs. Grace was a murderer? That their missing children might be animals waiting for slaughter? But Papa David spoke for her. "My daughter was taken, transformed, kept as a goat for sacrifice." His voice was steady, challenging anyone to laugh or doubt. "I know it sounds mad. I wouldn't have believed it myself. But it's true. And she's not the only one." The silence was thick. Then, from the back of the crowd, a woman spoke. "My son. He vanished 2 months ago. The last thing he told me was that he'd found money. 5,000 naira at the bus stop." Another voice. "My daughter too." She was so excited. Said God had blessed her with money for textbooks. More stories emerged. More missing children. More found money. The pattern was clear once you looked for it. The compound filled with grief and rage as parents realized their children hadn't run away or been kidnapped in the normal sense. They'd been transformed and caged. That night, Aduni couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she was back in the pen. She could smell the fear, hear the bleating that was really crying, see the human eyes in animal faces. 48 goats, Chief Mrs. Grace had said. 48 people waiting to die. She thought of the white goat that had been a university student. Had she been chosen for sacrifice? Was she already dead? Her dreams of education turned to ash in some ritual fire. What about Elder, the grey goat who charged their captor? Had his bravery been punished? Before dawn, Papa David woke her. Time to go back to Baba Ifa, and we're not going alone. The path to the clearing was crowded this time. Word had spread through the night. Parents of missing children, siblings, friends. Even some who had no personal loss but couldn't stand the evil anymore. They came with anger and hope and desperation, following a crippled shoemender and his 14-year-old daughter. Baba Ifa was waiting, sitting in the same spot like he hadn't moved. But now there were others with him. An imam with a white beard, a priestess with cowrie shells in her hair, even a young pastor who looked terrified but determined. "Good," Baba Ifa said, surveying the crowd. "Truth draws truth. Light calls to light. Now we plan." He drew a map in the dirt, Chief Mrs. Grace's compound from Aduni's memory. She marked where the pen was, where the guards stood, where the walls were lowest. Others who worked in the area added details. A security guard who'd been fired for asking questions. A cleaner who'd seen things she wasn't supposed to. Piece by piece, they built a picture of the fortress. "We cannot storm it," the imam said. "She has protection, legal and spiritual." "And we cannot wait for courts," the priestess added. "How many more will die while lawyers argue?" "So we use her weapon against her," Baba Ifa said. He pulled out a pouch and spilled its contents. Naira notes of different denominations. The crowd stepped back instinctively. These are from her traps, collected over months from places where children vanished, still carrying her curse, still connected to her power. "What are you suggesting?" Papa David asked. "She draws power from greed, from those who pick up what isn't theirs. But what if the money was picked up with knowledge, with purpose, with the intent not to keep but to return?" He smiled, and it was sharp as a blade. "What if we turned her trap into our key?" The plan he outlined was dangerous, probably mad, certainly desperate. But as Aduni listened, she felt something she hadn't felt since her transformation: hope. They wouldn't wait for heroes or saviors, they would save themselves. Dawn broke grey and uncertain as the crowd gathered in the community square. What had started as dozens had grown to hundreds. The phone calls and messages through the night had done their work. Parents came with photos of missing children. Siblings carried worn clothing that still smelled like their vanished brothers and sisters. Even those who hadn't lost anyone came, drawn by the horror of what had been happening under their noses. Aduni stood on a wooden crate, Papa David steady beside her. Her school uniform had been found and cleaned, making her look both ordinary and extraordinary. A secondary school girl who had survived the impossible. "My name is Aduni David," she began, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. "5 days ago, I picked up money from the ground. I thought I was lucky. I thought God had blessed me. I was wrong." She told them everything. The transformation. The pen, the dozens of human goats waiting for sacrifice, Chief Mrs. Grace selecting victims like choosing meat at the market, Reverend Mother Patricia blessing the selections, the network of powerful people who paid for sacrifices with contracts and promotions. "You're lying!" someone shouted from the back. A well-dressed woman pushed forward. "Chief Mrs. Grace pays my children's school fees. She built our community center." "With blood money," an old man countered. "My grandson disappeared last year, said he found 10,000 naira. We never saw him again." The crowd erupted. Believers and doubters, those who'd lost family and those who'd benefited from Chief Mrs. Grace's charity. Voices rose to shouts. It might have turned violent, but then something unexpected happened. Thank you very much for watching. We have one more amazing episode to go. If you've enjoyed the story so far, please drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you won't miss any updates. Thank you, and remember, we love you.